Certain people seem to want to manipulate and control words. Why? Other people seem to understand that we need to liberate speech, liberate our ability to dialogue. And when we do that, we touch on the power that we hold with our words. So I'm glad you're with me in this one. Let's get into it.
Well, there was a thing that was going on for a while where you were platforming people. This was the idea. Like if you had on a guy like Trump, you were platforming this bad person. This was this thing.
Yeah, I didn't think about that at all.
It's an authoritarian way to regulate conversations that let you know more about people. And it's stupid because people don't want to have a nuanced perspective on anybody. Look, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Kamala Harris. I'm like, I bet there's a person in there. I bet I can get to that person.
Yeah.
I wanted to find that person. I don't want to hear all the speeches. I don't want to hear, I was raised middle class. I don't want to hear any of that shit.
She's a roller skater. You know that?
No, I would love to find that out.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her about all kinds of shit. I literally said, like, because there was a few restrictions of things they didn't want to talk about, but I said, I don't give a fuck. I go get her in here. Like, whatever you want to talk about. And they want to know if I edit. I'm like, there's not going to be any editing. There's no editing.
Yeah.
We're not going to edit. But
yeah, that's the same thing they asked us. Is there an edit? You know?
I just wanted to talk. I feel like you give someone a couple of hours and you start talking about anything. I'm going to see the pattern of the way you think. I'm going to see the way you process ideas. I'm going to see whether or not you're calculated or whether you're just free.
Yeah.
Or are you comfortable with you, or are you projecting things? Like, she's got 80 different accents. How do you decide which one to pull out?
Yeah.
Like, she's got,
Yeah.
she busts out different accents depending on who she's talking to.
Well, I heard you might have needed to cancel on us to get Kamala Harris on.
I was not going to do that. I would have had to. I knew you guys flew from England, and I wasn't going to cancel on you because she had an opportunity to come in. You could look at this and you could say, "Oh, you're being a diva," but she had an opportunity to come here when she was in Texas, and I literally gave them an open invitation. I said, "Anytime." I said, "If she's done at 10 o'clock, we'll come back here at 10 o'clock." I go, "I'll do it at 9 in the morning. I'll do it at 10 p.m. I'll do it at midnight. If she's up. She wants to, drink a Red Bull, can party on."
Yeah, but I think this idea that you're being a diva is silly because you're offering her the opportunity to do exactly what the other candidate did, right?
Well, she actually reached out when she found out that he was coming on. So their camp reached out to me. So I said, great, I would love to talk to her. But it was very difficult to tie it down, and they wanted to travel. And see, the thing is, like, you can't, if I go somewhere, then there's going to be other people in the room. They want to control a lot of things, I'm sure, according to the Brett Breyer interview on Fox. Like, people were waving them off. That's a distraction. People in the room, like, my whole goal with her and with him was just talk, have a conversation like a human being. You find out things about people. You get a sense of them, at least, a real sense. That was it. I don't give a fuck what we talk about. I really don't. I just want to talk to you. Who the fuck are you?
Do you think they think that you're on his side and they're more wary of you?
I don't know. I mean, there's just because of my appearance, there's always been this assumption that I'm some right-wing MAGA guy. I was a Bernie supporter. I am I'm a politically homeless person for sure. I always considered myself a left-wing person. I never thought I would ever vote right-wing. But then the tides of culture shifted in a very bizarre way. And it just made me, over time, much more aware of what this stuff is really all about. Because what this stuff is really all about is just these natural human behavior patterns and these tribal instincts that we have. And it overpowers all discussions. It overpowers what's good for the collective group. It overpowers everything. It's just people pick a fucking team, and then whatever that team says, they can do no harm. They will do their best to marginalize the horrible effects of the furthest extreme version of that, whether it's Antifa or the Proud Boys. They'll minimalize it's the same thing, man. And so for me, it was always like the liberals were the ones who wanted education and open-mindedness. The liberals who were the ones with the ACLU let the Nazis talk and let them have a rally. They said you can't infringe on people's free speech, because if you infringe on the speech of people that you disagree with, you're being a fucking hypocrite. The only solution to bad speech is better speech. We've always known that. But when they had the power over social media and these collective groups of people that all had the same ideology, and then that tribal mentality kicks in, and you lose the perspective that you should have as an educated person that recognizes that everyone has to be able to talk, and we have to figure out who's right. And you might be wrong. You might be wrong, and you might be clinging to this idea that you're right, and you're going to do the whole thing a terrible disservice.
So what is Joe figuring out here? What is doing a disservice to the whole thing? What's that thing that he's talking about? I think he's really talking about open and honest and free dialogue, not a dialogue that's manipulated by political ideology, whether it be from left or right or whatever. And I do want to talk about this idea of teams. It seems that there are people who would want you to edit the podcast. There's a team, if you will, maybe a political party, if you will, but I think there's something deeper to that. And as a Christian, I look back into the Tower of Babel. I look back into sort of rebellious humanity that really wants to control words. It's really important that we all say the same thing, and it's, in a sense, it's a defiance from how God created things. His creation comes from the Word of God. He speaks creation into existence. And so there's this other team that sort of approaches dialogue or the use of words as like a sacred thing. We are we approach it with humility, knowing that we could be wrong. And that's how you cultivate free and open and honest dialogue. It takes courage to do that. And there are people who don't want to engage that way. They want to manipulate the words. So back to the Theo Von clip. Would they edit the podcast? One party wants you to edit and make it say, okay, I'm going to say something, and then you edit it to make it sound much better than what I actually said. And then there's another group, maybe even a political party, that would say, please don't edit this. I want people to hear me in context. Don't take my words out of context. Don't splice it up and make it sound like I'm saying something else. And we'll actually get to some of the hoaxes that, in a way, were revealed to be hoaxes because of people participating in dialogue through the tool of the internet nonetheless. And so that's why I think there's something really interesting going on here as Joe and others figure out how to use podcasting. I mean, this 2024 political cycle was really shaped and molded by a group of people that appeared on podcasts, had long-form discussions, spoke freely, and another group that seemed to still want to manipulate old media to just, again, sort of take control of the narrative rather than being shaped by open and honest dialogue. And so I would be interested in your feedback with regards to that, because I think that, part of the goal of my podcast would be, I'm going to share my thoughts. I don't know how true they are. So I need your help. And one of the things is, I don't really want to just be looking for the boogeyman behind every bush, but it seems to me that there is a spiritual battle going on. That battle often will manifest in the realm of ideas, politics, if you will, and it's sort of a battle of words or a battle of ideas. And it really, this two-team idea, one team that sort of wants to be shaped by words, the shared word, the dialogue, and others who want to shape the words for their own ends, for their own maybe political desires that they have. And so it touches on this chapter 3 of Genesis, where God has given Adam and Eve a command, and then the enemy, the Satan, comes and just twists it a little bit. Did God really say? And you can see the use of words here being very important. And so I don't want to say though there are people who would rather manipulate words, and they are of Team Lucifer. And then there are people who would rather be shaped and transformed by engaging with the word free and open and honestly with humility. And that's Team Yahweh. That's Team Good, But it almost does seem that way to me. And so, yeah, let me know what you think. Now, with that, I want to go back to some of the conversations that Joe was having, because I think he sort of put on a master class with regards to how people use words, how some people want to manipulate words, and particularly this interview with Elon Musk, I thought was really over the mark. So let's check that out.
Well, there's so much bullshit out there. First of all,
yeah, it's both in all directions.
Thank you so much for buying Twitter. Thank
welcome.
you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm not exaggerating when I think you changed the course of history. I really do. I really think you made a fork in the road. We were headed down a path of censorship and of control of narratives that is unprecedented. Forget about what they were able to do back when they had newspapers and the media under control. What they were doing with social media by suppressing information, and when you had a combined government effort, like what they were doing with the laptop story, and Twitter complied.
Yeah.
If you didn't buy that, we wouldn't have known that. We had no idea.
Exactly. No, it's. I mean, the reason I bought it is because I'm pretty attuned since I was the most interacted with user on Twitter before the acquisition. So before the acquisitions, I had more interactions than there's some accounts like Obama and whatever had higher follower accounts, but I had the most number of interactions of any account in the system. So I was very attuned to like if they change the system, I can tell immediately. Like and I'm like something weird is going on here, you know. Like so there's like I just got increasingly uneasy. And obviously when they deplatformed a sitting president, you know, not deplatformed Trump, that was just insane.
Okay, so just real quick, again, there's that symptom or that clue of a group of people that want to control the narrative, not having control of the narrative, letting people speak freely, letting people share their ideas freely is a threat to one particular system that really does want to have the control of the narrative. So that's historically speaking back when Elon bought Twitter, and then they're going to move the conversation into more current, this is 2024 political cycle where it kind of did get exposed that certain people want to manipulate the narrative. And then the question that I have for us is, are we living in a time of internet people, let's say, where it's actually getting harder and harder for people to lie, people that want to manipulate the narrative? It's just there's so many people talking, there's so many people listening that you just can't control it. The dialogue goes free. The logos is freed because it exists within people. So again, that's sort of esoteric, but are we entering into an age where it is harder and harder for people to lie? Now, of course, Babel will probably fight back. This system, this Babel system, will fight back and find a new means for deception and a new way of generating those lies or perpetuating lies. But so again, we're sort of back to the two teams. And again, let me know your feedback on this, but it's sort of team truth and team deception, or at least there's a team, I would hope, of people who say, you know what, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know everything. And I need a community of people around me who can build trust with me so that I can listen to them and that I can speak to them. And together we can lead one another towards a greater understanding of the truth and towards a greater immunity towards deception, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit more organic that way. It's not black and white, though that's probably reality. It's like how much of that can we as individuals grasp? So a little bit more organic, a little bit more centered around the connection of people and our understanding of truth and how we share truth. I don't know, feel like I'm getting kind of into the weeds here, but thanks for being here with me if you're still here. And if this is encouraging, conversations like this, as much as I'm rambling, are encouraging to you, can share that with friends and then perpetuate the dialogue. See how we're participating in the truth-seeking quest, let's say. So thanks for being on that quest with me, if that's not too lame to say that way.
You know, it was no longer useful. They just tossed out the puppet and then got a new puppet with Kamala. I mean, Kamala can't even talk. That you invited her on your show. I think the most damage that could possibly be done to a campaign is going on your show and seeing what she says in hours 2 and 3.
2 and 3 is when things get
2
spicy.
and 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
You can hide for 20
She's
minutes.
gonna melt.
You can hide for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could just regurgitate talking points for, half an hour, maybe an hour, just where she's just saying like non sequiturs, but eventually she just runs out of non sequiturs.
Well, they wanted to limit it to an hour.
Exactly. That's why.
But I was thinking of doing it initially before Trump came here. First of all, I never announced that Trump was coming. What I was going to do is just release it. The way I like to do things, I don't like to tell anybody who's coming on. It'll get big no matter what.
Sure.
If Trump was on, it would have been huge. I'm like, just put it out there. People go crazy.
Yeah.
But he apparently, or someone from his organization, some loose lips, and then it got out. And so she contacted my management company and said, would Joe have her on? I said, yes. And they said, she wants you to fly to where she is, and she's only willing to do 45 minutes.
Only 40. I mean, that's
and I was like, oh, no. So I thought about doing it. I'm like, maybe I can get a sense. Maybe I could convince her. Maybe I could coax her into doing more time. I just wanted to talk to her.
Yes.
Well, I don't give a what we talk about. We talk about recipes. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Just talk to me.
The things like you just can't like. you can't just output both non sequiturs for 3 hours.
Right.
But
You
for
have to
45
talk.
minutes you could do.
I thought maybe for 45 minutes I could get something out of it. But then when Trump came and did the 3 hours, I was like, you know what? It has to be like this. This is the only way.
To be fair, it's got to be like three
And
hours.
it should be in this room.
Yes.
Because this room is like a history of people
This room has good
expressing
vibes,
themselves.
actually. Yes, the Dems are like, oh, we're the good guys. We're the honest people. No, hang on. You can't claim to be the good guys. You can't claim to be the honest people if you're deliberately pushing hoaxes that have been debunked thoroughly.
Yeah. Well,
we're
not just
like even Snopes, which is a liberal thing,
Yeah.
says it's bogus.
Yeah.
Like the Fine People hoax.
Obama just said that on stage.
Someone just said that. I was like, what the flying?
He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. They're
That's
just
a flat
going
out
for
fucking lie.
flat out lie.
Flat out fucking
How
lie.
about the other one where Kamala's campaign used what Trump was saying about protecting women and from illegal immigrants,
Thank you.
whether
Yes.
women like it or not? Like that's not what he was saying.
Absolutely.
He was literally talking about protecting them from dangerous people that are sneaking in through the border.
Yes, exactly. They'll take like not even a full sentence, like a half a sentence from Trump,
Yes.
and then they'll push it on every ad, every speaking event, every
And it gets
media.
repeated on the news.
Yes.
This is what's crazy. They'll talk about it on these news shows, quote news shows.
The counter to misinformation is better information.
Not just that, but having it checked in real time by the community. So you
Yes.
have millions of people that can go over it and debate whether or not this is true or that's true.
Yes, and like I said, like the best way to understand the truth of things is don't take anyone's opinion for it. Look at the source material. So
Yeah.
it's like look at what someone actually said, look at what someone actually did, look at the real videos of the situation, and then you'll know what's real.
Okay, so again, I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate that it seems that Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, others are really committed to perpetuating people's ability to speak freely. And I do think we're seeing a change in climate. I think that there is old media and sort of old political discourse that has really gotten used to their ability to just say whatever they want to say. I mean, some of the examples that they gave stuck out to me like sore thumbs. It's just like perpetuating lie after lie after lie, even though that lie, at least in sort of the zeitgeist, has been debunked. It's like, but we still have to just sort of say these things. And so we go back to the clipping and taking things out of context and manipulating the narrative, manipulating words, using them for our own political ends rather than being sort of shaped by the truth. And I just think we are in a very interesting season of life. We're in a very interesting place in history where 3-hour conversations are going to shift the political spectrum. Shout out to my friend Christian Baxter. 3-hour conversations are changing the world, and yet there's a group of people who cannot endure the 3-hour conversation. They just can't perpetuate the lie or the political jargon long enough to be interesting for 3 hours. You can just recycle sort of political talking points for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, or something like that. And it is important to sort of have concise sort of one-liners. Even comedians are going to say, yeah, there's some power to having sort of a slogan that maybe even you repeat. But something that we pointed out on a previous podcast is the, Kamala just saying the same thing over and over and over again, which is more Babel-like than it is, really being honest with what you believe. Now, Trump has a sort of different way of talking. He weaves in stories, right? He does the weave, and so he doesn't sound as ridiculous repeating himself because it's always slightly different. It's not just a memorized slogan that's repeated over and over again that you then clip into a montage and make somebody sound ridiculous. So there's this old group of politicians who haven't figured out how to lie in the new world, digital world. Okay, and which takes me into this passage in John chapter 8. Sorry that I've got it clipped here, but like John chapter 8, verse 44. And, again, I think that in the past, this would have seemed like a strange segue. It's like, hey, you're talking about politics. Why are you bringing the Bible into this? Or, hey, you're talking about freedom, free speech. Why are you bringing sort of religion into this? I think we're moving away from that. And I think that's a good thing. I think for too long, we've sort of dismissed religion into sort of some sort of hokey, kids' stories and been able to sort of dismiss it by treating it that way. But you can't. I don't think you can do that anymore. So I think what we're seeing maybe in the political realm, it will spill over into the realm of ecclesiology, the church, and how I speak as a Christian. So how Christian people interact and sort of and not live online, but sort of live in sort of this augmented reality where online is a part of it. And so we go 2,000 years ago back to Jesus having this conversation with some other political leaders. I mean, I say political leaders, really they were religious leaders, but they had a lot of political sway. The religious political sphere was more blended than maybe it is today. Jesus says this. He says, well, actually, I'm going to go up from here. Now, I know that you are Abraham's descendants, yet you seek to kill me. So this is verse 37. Because my word has no place in you. So we're back to the power of the word. I speak the things which I have seen from my father, and therefore you also do the things which you heard from your father. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to him, if you are Abraham's children, do the deeds of Abraham. But as it is, you are seeking to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. This Abraham did not do. Now, there's something about the cognitive dissonance that we're seeing online with people who have lived in a certain ideological framework, the woke sort of framework. I've done other podcasts on this, sort of the woke religion, religious cult, if you will. It is hard to escape cults. It's hard to break free of that sort of cult-like. And when I say religious ideology, I mean it in sort of the negative sense of religious ideology. I think there's sort of religion that sort of has been passed down to us from God. I think that's good religion. Then there's the stuff that people try to manufacture based on their own will. That's Babel. Babel did that, right? And so this sort of woke religious ideology is hard to break free from, and one of the clues to it is sort of the cognitive dissonance. Trump is literally Hitler, and then when he shows up on Joe Rogan, he talks for 3 hours. He doesn't really sound like Hitler. There's I'm freaking out now because I was told he's literally Hitler, which I don't know how that could be possible unless Hitler survived World War II and all that, right? And so there's this cognitive dissonance. You see that here in John chapter 8. They are saying Abraham is our father, and they're saying that they didn't come about through fornication. So they say up here in verse 39, Abraham is our father, and in verse 41, we are not born of fornication. We have one Father who is God. So the irony of this is that they are talking to Jesus, the only begotten of God, right? The only Son of God, right? And what they're saying is, we are that. We just come straight from God. We are not we're not born of natural sort of fornication. We're not born out of this natural process. We have come from God. So they're claiming what is true about Jesus and Jesus only. They're claiming it to be true about themselves. And because of that, they can't see who Jesus really is. And so there's this cognitive dissonance going on. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceed forth and have come from God, for I have not even come on my own initiative, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I'm saying? It is because you cannot hear my word. You can't hear it. There's a ideological barrier. You are of your father, the devil. Okay, again, are we just sort of religifying this whole conversation? Is this hokey religion? Or is it that Joe Rogan's podcast and some of these other dialogues are touching on this ancient wisdom from the past that Jesus has, we've had this message from Jesus for 2,000 years. You are of your father, the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. And so this, again, I've sort of said this is Genesis 3. This is also Tower of Babel. This is, even in our modern day, the desire to continue to perpetuate the lie is still there, even though in the face of everyone, those lies have been sort of debunked or fact-checked or whatever. And even, like, I think podcasting is part of this process, and I think Twitter is part of this process, as long as those stay free. The community notes, the fact that the community can come in and engage in that dialogue is something. Again, we approach this with humility. It's like, I'm going to say this, I might be wrong. If I am, I hope somebody can help me see where I'm wrong. There's this other team, if you will, this other family is just committed to lies because that is the nature of that family. That is the nature of that sort of quote unquote tribe or whatever. But because I speak the truth, says Jesus, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? I speak truth. Why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the word of God. For this reason, you do not hear them, because you are not of God. And so if we are hearing the truth, then we are children of God. The truth is the native language of heaven. The truth is the native language of the kingdom of God. And so, again, even though Joe's not a Christian, Elon, I think has maybe said he's sort of culturally Christian. This conversation, the conversation that they're having, I think is very Christian-like. It's very Christian-like. It's like, you're not far from the kingdom if you are pursuing the truth in this way. Well, thank you for being with me as we sort of unpack a lot of this. I hope it's encouraging. I hope it's, again, sort of perpetuating meaningful dialogue. If you're here at the end, I really appreciate you. And you can go check out just the work that I've been doing on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter. And I hope to continue to engage in this dialogue with you. So I'll catch you in the next one.